Before we start, I'd like to remind everyone, subscribe to our YouTube channel for all the great videos that we produce on customer success. Welcome everyone to our 8th session. Super excited to have you today. Please, this is a monthly session, highly interactive about very specific issues every time. We'll bring a guest host to share how they're doing their thing in that particular aspect. And you all get to ask questions, share your own advice. It's a 1-hour session, so it goes by really quickly. Yeah, and let's go ahead and get started. So today's conversation is about the customer journey mapping. Today I have with me 𝘠𝘱𝘱𝘕𝘱𝘱. He's the Vice President of Customer Success at VitalSource. He also brings with him a couple of teammates to help share how tactically they actually implemented the customer journey. How did they approach creating it as a team? Because he has 3 teams on 3 different products. And then they also have to just make things a little bit more complicated, completely different customer types. So I'll have him go through all of that with you so you can really understand the complexity of the business model. William and I and his team worked on his, just launching this initiative back, when was it, William? Back in November?
50 years ago now, back, November of last year.
November of last year. But then, they took all the insights they received from the initial workshop that I did with their team, and then they ran with it. So today is all about that journey that they went themselves to develop this customer journey map. I'm going to start by asking him a few questions. He has a few slides with him and his team that he'd like to share. So without further ado, because I know this hour runs out really quickly, and thank you for everyone who joined. William, take it away.
Sure, thank you. First of all, Ari, thanks for the opportunity. Speaking on behalf of Shanna and myself, we don't get a ton of opportunity to work and talk with colleagues in the customer success space. We spend a lot of time in our own little corner of the market, I think, like a lot of people do. And this is a treat for us. So thank you for the opportunity to come in and tell our story. Mm-hmm. For everybody else, what I thought I would do, I want to share a couple of quick, just kind of contextual points. I want to give you a little bit of background on our business and a little bit of background on our team, just so you know why we decided it was so important to do journey mapping, why we started with that almost a year ago. And so you'll understand. Then I'm gonna really sort of turn it over to Shanna to let her dig in. We want to share the project plan that we came up with, how to get our teams to come up with their journey maps. We want to dig into Shanna's journey map. She was the first person on our team to come up with one, and it became a template for other teams. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a tendency, I was just telling Irit, I have a tendency to get pretty wound up. So I'm going to try very hard to take pauses and try to take questions along the way if at all possible. What I thought I would do is just very quickly give you guys a word about me and Shanna, and hopefully you see a screen now, Irit, that has mine and Shanna's pictures on it. So it's advancing correctly? Okay. So my name's William. I'm the VP of Customer Success at VitalSource. I've been in various business development and what we used to call account management and now customer success roles over the years. Shanna Daniel is joining me today. She manages the customer success team that specifically deals with our big partner accounts. And again, she did what ended up being a real template for the company, and I wanted her to share that today. So she's going to help tell the story. A quick word about VitalSource, just so you know something about us and what we were trying to accomplish. We are the leading digital course materials provider in the world. We have our own platforms. So we have an e-textbook platform. We have 2 courseware platforms. We have an integrations middleware platform. And we have a channel enablement, sales enablement platform that our partners use. And our core segment is higher education. Most of our business is in higher education, but we do have really fast growing concerns in adult learning spaces and in K-12 as well. So this is all just so you understand the complexity of our customer success environment. A word about our customer success team. We are currently just over 80 people on our team, so it's a big team. We currently support 9 distinct business segments. Both U.S. and non-U.S. divisions are included in those 9 segments. We support today, Arit, it's actually grown since last time you and I talked. We now support 5 key technology platforms. We have offices in Raleigh, which is where I am, which, by the way, if you know anything about this part of the world, it's an act of bravery for me to be outdoors trying to do this session today because it is enormously hot. You'll probably start to see me sweat in a minute. But we have our main offices in Raleigh. We have offices in Raleigh, Boston, San Francisco, Nashville, Seattle, London, and Melbourne. We have customer success people from various segments in all of those offices, and everybody, of course, right now is remote. And the key metric I thought was worth sharing at the very beginning is this last bullet. Over the course of calendar 2019, we had a 40%, just over 40% turnover in our customer success organization. So we inherited a team with challenges. I took over this team in October of last year, called Arit on like my second week in office. And we very quickly I have a team of 9 directors and managers that we very quickly pulled together and started talking about where we wanted to spend our energy to try to address some of the problems. We had people problems, we had turnover, morale, people reporting isolation, severe lack of training. And of course, the key thing about our team at that time was it was all firefighting all the time. Folks who had owned this team prior to my coming in had a diffuse approach to onboarding and readiness, and therefore there was not a lot of documentation, there was not a lot of consistency. And we really talked a lot about how we could have a coherent approach to trying to fix all of these various problems. I'll even share just a couple of quick bullets. When we came in last fall, we did a internal survey on morale issues, and these were the kinds of feedback we got from the team at the time: a feeling of exhaustion, of not feeling particularly valued within our larger organization, everything being reactive, a lack of a consistent, what the team felt was any kind of a sense of professional approach. So all of this is just to point out to you guys today, we're a mature business in most of our business, but we are not a mature environment for customer success. Customer success is a relatively new idea, and a lot of what we've done in the last 8 to 9 months has been try to build a sense across the entire team of what it means to be customer success, how that's different than the account management that we've done in the past. I'm not going to spend too much time on these slides. You guys can skim and glance over them. These are when we asked our customer success team, what is it that you do? Onboarding customers, implementing products, answering queries from customers, ad hoc customer communications, meeting prep, project management, manual billing in some of our business, unfortunately. Some of our business is what most of the folks on this call would recognize as SaaS, but a lot of it's not. And so that complexity of that environment is a lot of what our teams deal with. This is my team, by the way. This is my leadership team. These are directors and managers. And we got this team together and said, we need a lot of plans. We put together an 8-point approach to the year, and you'll see what number 1 is. We said, if we don't do anything else this year, we've got a lot to do, but the number 1 thing we want to do is deploy journey maps for our various segments. What did we want to get out of it? We just wanted a common language and clear professional goals for people. We wanted to get out of firefighting if at all possible. We wanted to concentrate on post-sale environments and onboarding. And we just said we want 1 journey from each team for a critical persona. Here's what Arit taught us in like the first 5 minutes that we talked with her. Customer journey map, to have a map by itself is not enough. The map has to be augmented by playbooks for specific points on the map. And the playbooks have to be augmented by specific templates that we can just throw at people and say, look, when you get to this stop on your map, here's the playbook you grabbed. It tells you what to do. And here are the templates for the emails and the communications and the PowerPoint slides and everything you need at that juncture. And this has been the concentration of our year this year. And this is what it looks like, by the way, for those of us visual learners. That in the very background is a copy of the customer journey map for the segment that we're going to dig into in just a second. And we have playbooks and templates that come out of the segments of the map. So we started a project. And at this point, we had one of my directors who is particularly good at projects, who developed a project plan for all of the teams and deployed, and this took several weeks of really concerted effort from our leadership team, that team I shared just a minute ago. And what I thought I would do at this point is Shanna, do you have that, or do you want me to pull it up, that project plan?
Pull it up. Yep. And while I do that, do we want to pause for any questions so far before
yeah,
we get
so
kind
far,
of granular on the map?
Context. It's all context. I'm trying to race to get to the actual project plan.
Yeah, no worries. We're actually not seeing any questions coming from the team, but thanks for pausing. Guys, first of all, I know you're on mute because there's 66 of you, but if you do post a question as they go through the slides, we are able to communicate with William and Shanna. We can pause and address your questions, and we'll definitely address them towards the end if we can do it while they're going through their lovely examples. Thank you for that. That was a really great intro, by the way. So feel free to submit any questions that you have, and we'll definitely address them. We do have one from Saqib. The question is, go ahead, Saqib, can you introduce yourself, just your name, the company just the name of the company you work for, so we keep it super brief, how many CSMs you are. Can you go ahead and ask your question?
Hi everyone, my name is Saqib. I work at this company called Trapeze. We are 10 CSMs. My question on journey mapping is this supposed to be for the internal employees? Because I know that employee success translates into customer success, or is this for the end customer?
So that's a great question, and Reed, I'm sure you could talk about that all day. I'm going to give my very short version. For us, this is an internal document. This is for internal use. What we've seen is the journey map itself, the end-to-end steps that we believe a customer needs to take, that's for internal use. The playbooks that we develop for each stage, and then the templates, those become the things that we share externally that are the manifestations of the various stops on the journey.
Okay.
So what I'd suggest is, Shanna, I think it's probably worth just if you'll tell the very quick story. So I came in as Mr. Ideas guy and said, hey, everybody needs to do journey maps, but then you and several of the others had to take that and really make something out of it. It's probably worth just spending a couple of minutes and talking about how you guys got organized and how we got to this project plan.
Yep. So I think the beginning of our process with all of this was actually in the room with 𝘧𝘧. We had an on-site with 𝘧𝘧 before everything went into lockdown. I think it was back in mid-February. And part of that session, was a lot of sort of seeing examples from 𝘧𝘧 of what other organizations had put together, and then kind of going, back to our own corners and brainstorming and throwing a lot of ideas up on whiteboards and working those ideas out, coming back to the larger group. Out of those 2 days, I think really came a framework for some thought and some direction that we wanted to have as a team in kind of next steps. And one of my takeaways that I think everybody really began to run with is in terms of course correction of VitalSource customer success of years past, is beginning to speak the same language. And along with that really came a dedication to, first and foremost, making sure that everything that we were moving forward with at the highest and, if possible, the mediumest levels could be sort of repurposed and reconstituted across all of our many segments and across any journey that we were going to come up with and develop. I think I saw a question in the chat about did we come up with a separate customer journey for each of our 9 segments? And I don't think I'm misspeaking when I say that the answer is yes, and then some, right, William?
Yeah. This is a really important point, and it's a really timely question. Shanna, you guys spent a ton of time and energy trying to make sure that the various segment maps were as consistent as they could be.
Yep.
Without forcing anything. Is that right?
Yeah. Yep, that's absolutely right. In years prior, each of our different segments was sort of like living in its own corner, and in many cases reinventing wheels. So we really took this as the opportunity that it was to begin coming back to the table with each other and saying, like, well, what are the things that we know and want as best practices to define for ourselves and for our organization as what should always be true in an onboarding process for a client, regardless of whether that client is a reseller or a publisher or you know, an institution of higher ed, K-12 school. Like, there are some fundamentals there. Like, let's agree to the fundamentals and let's agree to some language that we can all begin to rally behind. And William's right, we spent a lot of time and energy making sure that we had a framework that we all felt comfortable moving forward with, and that absent of an extra level of segment specific detail was going to be workable for everybody.
One piece of our business is is a direct sale that we have a sales force that owns. There's another piece of our business where we're actually just supporting a partner who's doing the sale. And there's another aspect of our business that we even have a smaller part of our business is B2C. And so across those various segments, it would be really easy to have a starting point where you just thought, oh, everything's going to be completely different. But when we forced ourselves to really try to find where the commonalities were, that's where we really started to see, I think, a lot of real positive feedback. The one other thing I'll say, and then we'll switch over, Shanna, to your document, and I've got it pulled up. I can just pull it up. But the one other thing I'll say is, we did not have a single person on our 80-person team who felt like they had a ton of previous experience in a large customer success, quote unquote, team. We hadn't hired anybody from Gainsight. We didn't get anybody from anyone who felt like they had a really long, deep customer success experience. And so one of the things that was very important to us was at key early milestones, we were able to send what we had to 𝘬𝘓𝑒𝑎𝑡, say, are we crazy? Does this look directionally right? And that to us ended up being a huge value just to keep us pointing north, I think, over the what was a month long. So the document, the project document ended up being having our teams do journey maps various times. Sometimes we forced our teams to work cross segment in order to get try to force consistency where we could. And what we came up with, Shanna deserves just a ton of credit for this.
All right, hopefully you guys can see a big Excel document here. So I have a couple caveats that I'll kind of lead with. So this is the primary customer journey that my team came up with first. And as William mentioned, I manage a team of customer success managers that really work with partners and resellers. We took to mapping a customer journey that really represented a large, opportunity in our segment. It was something that was coming up frequently. I guess maybe the first caveat that I'll offer is that at the time that we were doing the thought work that for a customer journey, we just went ahead and brain dumped a lot of things out that probably have about 40 to 50% of a toe into the playbook world. So there's a lot of wordiness here that probably isn't necessary, and that I know my team in a less busy season is probably going to be interested in dialing back on a version 3 of this. But if you see a lot of words, that's why. I think it probably makes sense to kind of orient everyone to what you're seeing here and what we developed as a journey map, because I think it's worth saying that a lot of the framework that exists, sort of think about like, along the left side and along the top here, is the framework that was agreed to across the entire CS department that William referred to, that we spent a lot of time and energy on, and getting that sort of buy-in and consistency across segments and across journeys. So categories along the left side, I'll come back up here to the top in just a little bit. But in this first section, these are going to be major categories that each granular event that we were going to map along our customer journey was going to have to take into account. So, you know, an event trigger, what is going to kick us off on a particular event that lives within, you know, the larger like ecosystem of the journey? What are our objectives and success criteria that we're going to be driving off of for the team as a goal? Key activities, high-level descriptions of actions that need to happen within a particular event. What are our deliverables? What output should we be driving towards on a particular event? And is this event a key milestone? Is it a risk? Is it a point of celebration? Is it some other milestone that we want to kind of call out? So below that, we have a section for roles and responsibilities. So we have an internal roles and responsibilities section here first. And all of these, each row here is a different persona at VitalSource that has some role to play along the customer journey. And then we have a section for external roles and responsibilities. So being able to call out for ourselves the individuals who we're going to be working with on our client side who are responsible for something or who we expect to participate in some way along this customer journey.
So a quick question, Shanna, there's been a little bit in the chat about the extent to which this is just a spreadsheet on somebody's desktop versus a system where we can really use this to enforce behaviors. We're not there yet. We're still in the sort of such an early development phase. We're not quite ready to load this into a system yet. We still very much feel like we're in the development stage of it. We do foresee ourselves getting into a platform probably early next year. That said, one of the things that I should have mentioned earlier is parallel to us creating these journey maps, our company was at the same time implementing Salesforce Service Cloud. And a ton of the work, gosh, 90% of the work that we did on these journey maps has ended up being represented and manifest in that Salesforce Service Cloud implementation. And it has been wonderful to go through those two processes, those two projects simultaneously, where the one is constantly impacting and reflecting the other.
Hey, Shanna, just a second.
Sure.
We do have a few questions. Is it okay if we stop to get some answers?
Absolutely. Let's do that.
Rachel, who do we have? So maybe before we jump in the chat, can everybody just like clarify what's your main takeaway so far, and give some acknowledgement to Shanna and William. What is your main key takeaway from what was said so far in the chat so that they can review it as well? Bertie, if you have a question, go ahead and just post it in the chat, and then Rachel and I will get to it very shortly. Teamwork and planning. I love the details. Comprehensive, diligent, standard approach from chat.
It was 100% Shauna's design to think of from left to right are the steps along the journey, and from top to bottom are the events per step and the people per step and the responsibilities and templates per step. That was 100% Shanna going back to her desk for a couple of days and just churning. And there's no more to our adoption of this than the fact that we all looked at it and said, whoa, this is fantastic.
Yeah, it seems like the majority of the people here that are watching this seems like it's very actionable. It's simplicity to adapt, very detailed, easy to follow. It really does show like there's a lot of thought that put into it. And one of the folks, I think it was Will Rahim from Delphix. Thanks for that question. He asked, do you have a customer success operations team? Will, do you want to ask the question yourself? Just present yourself, your title, how many people you have on your team.
Yeah, sure. Good morning, Reed. Thanks for the invitation. This is really great. Yeah, I lead the global customer success organization at Delphix. We're a team of about 85 people globally. And my question was around early on in our journey, as we launched customer success, this is about 2.5 years ago. One of the first things we did is actually invest in CS ops. So we hired, professional, seasoned operations, customer success operations people that have guided us through our journey. So I was curious if that's something that you have or thinking about investing.
It's not something that we have. It's something that I argue with my bosses about a lot. And we're coming up on our budget cycle starts here in about a month, and I will be going back to bat. I would say I totally endorse the notion. It's been, to be candid, it's been a challenge for me to get a cultural change internally at our company around customer success in general. And so finding funding for those kinds of roles has been a challenge.
Sure.
Part of, one of the things for Shanna and her team, this spreadsheet that you guys are looking at, it is an operational gold nugget that has really helped their team. For me, it's been something I take with me to every internal meeting that I go have with the boss and say, look at what this can be, right? And so I think we're a few years behind you, Will, but I'm hopeful that as we begin to share artifacts like this across the company, that really is starting to really take hold, and I'm hoping I can loosen up some funding.
Yeah, no, this is great. You're putting in place the foundational elements. So anything you do, from now on, it's just going to streamline it and make, teams more efficient. But this is really the heavy lifting.
I totally agree.
Yeah.
As you start at the top of this, if you look at sort of row 2 of the spreadsheet, row 2, row 3, those are consistent across all our segments. Row 4 is pretty consistent, but is starting to be different across the segments. And then as you go further down, it gets into the real weeds. Forced our people to work cross-segment this year, where we took somebody from the partner team and somebody from the enterprise team and somebody from the SMB team and made them work together. I would say if I had to put my money down on one place that was the best return on investment, that was probably
great. Rachel, do we have any other questions, or should we do? And Shanna, do you have more you'd like to show?
Hey, Shanna,
that needed to be mapped. Yep.
Shanna, before you jump in, one other question. I see a lot of questions about the platform.
Yeah.
So let me just say, let me let people know. As you pointed out to me yesterday, Shanna, when we were talking about this, we have gone through a period of particular growth in the last 3.5 years. We had a series of acquisitions, and we had a sudden ton of economic, organic growth through our base business. And as you guys might expect in the digital course materials business, the current environment is great for us as a business. And so we're seeing tons of growth. We acquired some companies. We are still very much in the kind of trying to get our hands around where we go to get what data, even internally across our systems. It's a priority for us to begin to get our arms around and sort of normalize our data. But one of the reasons we've been hesitant to jump all in on a CS platform is we don't have a good method of coordinating the accumulation of our data from our platforms yet.
Yeah, thanks for that. Hey, we have another question from Erica Villarreal.
Yes, of course, Irit. Hi. I'm actually on my workout clothes, so I won't turn on my video. So I'm actually in Mexico right now. I am not working at a company right now. I was a success manager for 5 years, previous to for the last 5 years. And I worked at a fintech company here in Mexico. I'm actually looking for a job in the United States. I'm looking to move. And basically, I did like a similar customer journey to the one Shanna is showing right now, which I believe it's very, very, very detailed. And I actually love what you've worked here, Shanna. Congrats on that. And most of my work had to do with mostly with the end-to-end user journey instead of the B2B journey. So I'm looking forward to understanding more how this works for a B2B process. And I'm really liking what I'm seeing right now. Thank you very much, 𝘧𝘩𝘓.
Yeah, when you think about customer experience methodologies, the focus is definitely doing a user journey, which, you know, drives adoption of the end user journey and all of that, and which is also very important. But when we talk about customer success terminologies and we look at the customer journey map, is typically for the account, not the individual end user. Some organization will do both because the product team needs to own the end user experience so that they can build a UI and UX, and then they might leverage the customer success team just to make sure that the adoptions methods are also, so this is a very good question. Thanks for clarifying this point. 𝘱𝘪𝘱𝘕, you had also a question. Would you like to introduce yourself, your name, company you work for, title, how many CSMs you have, where you're from?
Sure, absolutely. My name is 𝘱𝘪𝘱𝘕. I work for a company called Conga. We are a team of about 30 CSMs. We have about, I want to say, like 7 or 8 products, which is why I'm very curious to see how you manage the strategic segment, because that's what I run, is the strategic space of customer success. So how does this align to your strategic space? How does it align with your strategic portfolio of customers, the journey map?
Okay, you have a little bit of sound issue, microphone issue. If you could put yourself on mute, that would be great.
How does it align with the larger company strategy is, I think, the question. And we were very conscious to start with the customers that we see as what we call the headpin of our strategy. We have annual strategic reviews as a leadership team, and that annual leadership review very strongly informed who we prioritized as our prioritized personas for the onboarding and utilization of functions. So we did try to line it up with not just our biggest customers, but the ones that we see on the next 3 to 5 year roadmap. We tried to start with those and prioritize those, but ultimately the teams have been charged with creating maps like this for every key persona that we have pulled out over the years.
My name is Christine Viana-Kniffik. I'm VP of Customer Success at another ed tech startup, so I was really excited to start hearing your story. Our company is 𝘧𝘪𝑗, and we provide virtual solutions for admissions and enrollment departments at universities. My question was, I'm amazed and really impressed. I'm amazed at being able to distribute such a playbook and such a detailed playbook to 80 CSMs. That's amazing. Without a system. How are you doing that?
So this is one segment. And so the team that actually concentrates on this particular one is 7 people.
Okay.
Of the 80. So there are teams, remember there are 9 teams, and each of those teams has their own specific version of this that their director or manager would have developed. We brought you Shanna's because hers was the best.
It is really impressive. Yeah, I mean, in my experience, getting to a scalable, repeatable place even with 7, I'm impressed. Do you use anything else or does everybody refer to the spreadsheet to know what to do next?
I just can't overstate how primitive we feel, how naive we feel, right? We are new to this notion of customer success. Here's what happened, and my guess is this will ring really true to a lot of people on the team. We were a account management team. We had, I wasn't even involved. I was on the sales side. I was their sworn enemy at the time. But we had an account management team 3 years ago, and the person that ran the company at that time, I'm gonna overstate this a little bit, but not much, walked around the office one day and stuck his head into everybody's office and said, "Hey, you're not account management anymore, you're customer success." And that was the totality of the change process, right? I mean, it was absolutely in name only. And part of the frustration in the next 2 years, part of the frustration that built, and part of the reason we ended up having a lot of turnover, was there was no real support internally for what that change meant. And in addition, the few people we were hiring from the outside who had some experience doing customer success were landing in our environment and saying, this is not what I think I signed up for, right? And so where we feel like we are is about 8 months into a process of design, really more than anything else. What does it mean to be a customer success team? And question number one was, well, can we please at least try looking at this from our customer's point of view, what their steps are? That's really as far as we feel like we've gotten. And when we roll these out to our individual teams, those guys are so hungry for this. They are so desperate for somebody to say, you know, where do I go? What do I do next? How do I know what to tell my customers to expect? And that little change by itself of being able to share a version of this from time to time with your customer and say, over the course of the next 4 weeks, I expect you to hit the following steps. And I have links. Each of these squares essentially links to a playbook that now our customer success people can grab. We're not super mechanized about where all those things are. Right now, we're using Salesforce as the place where you now go and grab your playbooks. But I think we're going to learn a lot about how to mechanize this thing in 2021 is my expectation. I'm hopeful.
I think so too.
I'd like to move the question to 𝘧𝘪𝘧𝘕𝘓𝘕. I believe you had a question earlier.
Sure. Hey, everyone. My name is 𝘧𝘪𝘧𝘕𝘓𝘓𝘕. I'm the Director of Customer Success at a company called Customer. So we're in the customer service, CRM space. So my question is I've just gone through this with my team, not as sophisticated as this. I'm really impressed. But I mean, just going through this and writing it all down I found that to be super insightful because that's where I found gaps. One of the things that I'm doing now is I'm doing some voice of customer initiatives to try and get more of the customer's perspective. I'm just curious how you did that as you thought through your customer journey.
Shanna, you want to take that one?
I can. So I would, for my team at least, we did not solicit feedback from the customer explicitly, but everything that's documented here was done based on, you know, experience of things that had gone well, feedback that we had gotten, understanding that we had gleaned. So to your point, even in attempting to document, we found gaps, we found holes, both in terms of, you know, our team's approach, you know, and our team's sort of like, you know, written record of now we have a best practice to follow. Oh, you know, but wait, we forgot this thing. And also sort of on an individual level, you know, someone who had never done annual business reviews before in the way that, you know, maybe our larger team assumed that they were being done. Those kind of things like bubbled to the surface. So I would say anything, at least for us and our approach, anything that we found, you know, that was really based on the client and the client's input was solicited outside of the formal development of this process.
Or one of the things we've talked about, we'd like to think that as we go into next year, we're going to spend a lot of time testing these things with our customers. Like one of the next steps for us is to okay, now let's go take these out and sit down with our customers and really hammer at it. My feeling has been we're not quite there.
Hey guys, before we move on to the next question, in your chat, can you please write down what was the main aha moment you got so far, things you're going to take home to your workplace and think about, some of the insights you've got. Just again, just go to the chat and write down your main takeaways. Jennifer Gamble, the format of this page, the left to right and the up and down. I've struggled with how to fully show this, so this format is great. Thank you guys for sharing this. Shared patching, even though we have Gainsight and mapping tools, I am reminded how well an Excel can do the job in getting ideas down simply. Christine Vienna, I really appreciate your crawl, walk, run approach. So many companies put a system in place without defining this first. I agree, Christine. The emphasis on growth expansion is consistent throughout. Wonderful. Completely agree. pristine. Format is great. Writing everything down is a great exercise. I agree. This is one of the best things that you can do, is just write it down and then share it with your team, get the feedback, and really get everybody going. The importance of speaking the same language across the team, client segments and products, helpful portray of load on the CSM. All right, I'll let you guys continue reading this, but thank you so much for your feedback. 𝘕𝘪𝘍𝘐𝑦𝘓, could you please present yourself, where you work, where you're from, what company you work for?
I'd be happy to. Well, thank you so much, Ivit, for inviting me at 7 o'clock this morning. I just got the wind of this wonderful summit just an hour ago. So, and I'm just absorbing everything that the presenters are sharing and engaging in the listening to the chat conversation. I'm 𝘕𝘪𝘍𝘐𝑦𝘓. For the past 6 months, I work for a startup company called SupportLogic. We have a very small team. Prior to SupportLogic, I was at ServiceNow and SAP, and at times I had hundreds of CS reporting to me. But right now, as a startup, my heroes are customer support professionals and leaders, and that's probably why I joined this company. We have a number of intelligent applications for escalation, for prediction, for churn prediction, case assignment, a number of functions that actually sit on top of Salesforce Service Cloud. And as mentioned, the support people, especially in this COVID era, are my heroes. And when we talk to my customers, some of them are deeply impacted with the change with the work from home, that the contact center, the support centers are no longer there, and they're transforming very rapidly to adjust. So my question actually from the presenter had to do with, mentioned that the company made a big investment in Salesforce Service Cloud, and some of the functions that you mentioned, William, are now part of Service Cloud. So I was wondering, how did your relationship with customer support evolve? Any of these journey map routes were taken by support? Are you shared with them? And I wonder, what was the synergy between the two groups?
Yeah, I love this question because our support team was using a weird Zendesk Jira hookup thing. So the last thing in the world they wanted from us was to come in and say, you now need to also somehow be involved in Service Cloud. They were very happy with their Zendesk implementation. And so that was a struggle. I will say we're very fortunate. Our director of support is fantastic, super engaging, was with us every step of the way. If anything, we maybe weren't quite as, we probably should have invited him more earlier. That was on us. It wasn't on him. But to his enormous credit and to that team's enormous credit, they have made the jump and they have come and met us in the Service Cloud environment. For the most part, there are some places where we've had to do some APIs to make sure the Jira ticket system continues to do things, at least for an interim period. But that was one of the key struggles. That's why I was so happy to see that question. It had not really occurred to me. That was a huge struggle for us.
So Nate Burns, I'm VP of Customer Success, a small company with only about 14 people on my team. So we're on the very early stages. And I think like many people, trying to figure out what customer success is and really trying to lay the foundation of how we grow. And one of the things, I've only been in this role for about 6 months. And one of the things that's really apparent to me is that we have essentially one product, but different customers can use that very differently and have very different requirements and needs. And so I'm fighting through that battle of the customer segmentation. I know you mentioned in the chat, I know you have business segments, but within there, sounds like you even had further segmentation of your customer base. And then therefore, if it's a customer segment A, you go down this path, customer segment B, you go down that path. So that's what I was kind of getting at.
I think, William, where you're probably going is that we handled this as tiers. Is that where you're thinking?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. So within my segment, I would think of my tier 1 accounts as being, our highest volume, highest, potential. And, I think we've mapped out tiers 1 through, in some cases, 4, in each segment. obviously tiering looks different segment to segment, but sort of a relative sense of, you know, the I don't want to say priority, but the level of services that that like a tier 1 or tier 2 account can expect to receive from us might be a little bit different than like a tier 4 tech touch customer. And that is somewhat reflected in our customer journeys. I think more likely to be reflected in our playbooks as we sort of took a step, you know, back and really started like defining even more detail than this.
I just add to that we didn't set out to do that. That was something that in like week 3, we were standing at a whiteboard and all said, oh my God, we have to do a separate one of these for every size of customer we have in these markets. And it was a real benefit for us. We actually spun up an entirely separate parallel project to make our teams go back and tier out their customers. And we had to come up with different criteria in every segment for, you know, what would quantify a tier 3 customer in this segment was very different than this other segment. And it has been one of the biggest benefits of the entire process that it made us go do that.
One other thing, because I saw that this was asked in the chat as well, about how we handled playbooks, which was the next step of this, and were they all segment specific? And the answer to that is that within that larger project plan, one of the things that we continuously tried to come back to do is come back to center and say, what are the commonalities? What do we have? What's here that's shared? So, you know, just as an example of that, once each of our segments finished their first drafts of their customer journeys, coming back to center and saying, well, what are the commonalities? If we know, and I didn't get to say this explicitly, but all of our segments share phasing and they share milestones. What happens beyond the milestone level is up to the segment, and there's a lot of commonality there. And as you might expect, there's a lot of commonality in the templates and in the systems that get used for each one of these events. So as we sought to develop playbooks and as we sought to develop templates, we did develop a series of cross customer success templates and playbooks that could be, you know, used by anybody in any journey, and then also further built out more segment specific playbooks and templates as well.
All right, guys, thank you very much. This was a great learning experience for everyone. I speak even for myself, even though I started you out on this journey. I can't be more proud to see all the work that you guys have done. Thank you, William Chester and Shanna Daniel, for giving us your time today, your experience, such rich examples. Following this session, we will work with William and Shanna to develop a blog with lots of screenshots and examples, and they're also going to do a YouTube channel. So if you wanted to share, like have other people watch this, you're welcome to have them look into this later on this afternoon or tomorrow morning at the latest. You will receive an email with a link to the recorded session. Feel free to share it with others. We'll also provide additional resources about this topic and a summary of this conversation for you to look into. I encourage all of you to connect with one another, continue these discussions on this important topic amongst yourselves. Reach out to William and Shanna on LinkedIn and connect with them as well. I know they would love to have a network. And again, we'll see you again next month. We have these sessions on the 3rd Tuesday of every month at the same time. So watch out for invitations, and also in the same RSVP and reg page, you can sign up for other sessions. So I'll see you all at 8 o'clock Pacific, 11 o'clock Eastern next month at our next session, which will be August 18th. Please extend invitation to any other customer success executives and leaders that you know and appreciate. We're incredibly grateful for all of your engagement and your perspectives, and I look forward to having you join us next time. Have a beautiful day, and I look forward to seeing you next month.